From the Ohio AgDat Voice You Know at the News You Trust studio, sponsored by Grain Equipment Company, where innovation meets execution, I'm Joel Norwood with a look at your latest ag news. Geoff Cooper is president and CEO of the Renewable Fuels Association, says U.S. ethanol industry projected to have a record year for ethanol exports.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are surprised to learn that we do export a lot of the ethanol we're producing here in the U.S. In fact, we're on pace for record ethanol exports this year. Probably somewhere on the order of 2 billion gallons will be exported. So you think about the fact that we produce, a little over 4 billion gallons of ethanol in the state of Iowa. About half of that, volume-wise, is going to be exported into the international marketplace. So we're seeing really strong demand globally. A lot of that is being driven by the same factors that drive demand here domestically. There's a lot of countries around the world that are really catching on to those benefits.
On the flip side of ethanol news, the Energy Information Administration says ethanol output fell to its lowest level in 3 months, while inventories rose slightly during the week that ended September 13th. The agency said production sank to an average of 1.049 million barrels a day, down from just over 1 million barrels a day the previous week. It's also the lowest output since June 21st. Gulf Coast production rose, East Coast output unchanged, and Rocky Mountain production was steady as well. It's been in the works for quite some time now. The federal milk marketing order reform process, it's still ongoing, and dairy farmers having some concerns. Last week's comment deadline saw USDA's federal milk marketing order nearing its end, as Roger Cryan, as chief economist for the American Farm Bureau Federation, says that comment period is one of the final steps in a process that began over a year ago.
Co-ops and processors proposed some changes in the price formulas. USDA asked for more proposals, and there was a hearing to consider the 21 proposals that USDA thought fit to hear. Farm Bureau was there throughout, and USDA put out their recommendations in July with comments due last week.
It's calling it a mixed bag, with some positives to be found.
Particularly the ones to the formulas that will increase the Class 1 prices for bottling milk. We are not happy with USDA's huge increases in the make allowances, that part of the milk value that is deducted for the processor. Those make allowances were already big enough that cheesemakers have been building a lot of new plants and plant expansions. The cost survey data USDA used to raise those make allowances badly biased. It's based on voluntary surveys from small, high-cost processing plants that are not at all representative of the dairy manufacturing business generally.
Cryan says a decision on final federal milk marketing order changes expected by the end of the year,
which we hope looks a little different from the recommended decision. Then each order will be put up to a vote of farmers and co-ops. The markets where at least 2/3 of the farmers vote yes, the price formulas go into effect. And in the markets where more than a third vote no, the order will be terminated, not because USDA is required to terminate, but because that's been their practice for a very long time.
A reminder, the federal milk marketing order is a process that helps to regulate the sale of milk and make sure all parties involved are treated equitably. It's a tough time out there with crop prices at the moment, and a new farm income update from the Food and Agricultural Policy Research Institute projects farmers are expected to receive $204 million in ARC payments, or the Ag Risk Coverage Program from USDA, and $10 million in PLC payments. That's the Price Loss Coverage Program from USDA. That's higher than the projections USDA has, which places combined ARC and PLC payments at just $124.6 million. Not much in the big scheme of things, especially when we look at projected farm income and how much it has dropped from previous years. In fact, USDA forecasting 24 crop receipts for corn, soybean, and wheat farmers to go down about $26.2 billion. That would be about a 20% drop for corn, about 15% drop for soybeans, and what's looking at a close to 13% decline for wheat. As you may have heard, though, Senator John Boozman of Arkansas, ranking member of the Senate Ag Committee, said earlier this week on the floor, warning that row crop farmers facing consecutive years of lower income while costs have remained high, and he's calling for ad hoc aid to address the situation, pointing out that the safety net programs for USDA will just not be enough. Now, on the flip side of that, Ag Secretary Tom Vilsack did seem to reject the suggestion on a call Thursday that there's a looming crisis ahead over the drop in farm income for crop farmers. That's being reported by DTN. Vilsack said overall farm income above the 20-year average and pointed out that 2022 was a record year for farm income. Only time will tell what happens in this situation, but do stay tuned as we take a look at markets up next on the Ohio AgDat.
Soybeans grown in Ohio and across the heartland are meeting the feedstock demand for clean fuels. Biodiesel is a clean-burning and reliable fuel that enhances engine life, power, and mileage. Plus, this high-performance fuel works in any diesel engine without modification. With biodiesel, we fuel the economy, do good for the environment, and support soybean farmers. Learn how using biodiesel can add value to every bushel of soybeans grown at soyohio.org.
Closing market numbers here after Friday's trade in Chicago. New crop corn falling 4 cents to $4.01 3/4, as March corn contracts down 4 1/4 to a price of $4.20 per bushel. New crop soybeans 10.12 down 1 1/4, and Jan beans 10.29 1/2 off 1 3/4 cents. Next July wheat gaining up 1 3 cents to 6.03 3/4. Markets brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. October live cattle $2.50 higher today to $182.48. October feeder cattle up 13 cents to $243.90. October lean hogs $82.23 down 3 pennies, and milk class 3 for October staying relatively even at a price of $23.95. Stay safe out there as combines are rolling. It's extremely dry and many field fires being reported. This is the Ohio Ag Net.